Welcome to Rewiring Health, the podcast designed to unlock the secrets of self-worth and healing your mind and body. Hello, I'm Dr. Kelly Kessler, physical therapist, transformation coach, and your host. I spent a whole lot of time and energy seeking out a sense of fulfillment through achievement and validation from others, only to feel exhausted, like it was never enough, and even worse, like I was never enough. The thing is, I didn't even know I was abandoning myself in the process of making sure I was meeting the needs of everyone and everything around me until it significantly impacted my health. Now I live life differently. I live with more peace, more joy, and more freedom in my mind and body. I've uncovered my self-worth, which has allowed me to live more authentically and in alignment with my true self. I see myself and my life through a whole new lens. Are you ready to stop abandoning yourself and begin living your life with more ease and purpose? Let's do this together. It can be so easy to get lost in the to-do list, to get lost in the expectations that others place on us, to constantly feel like we have to fill our schedules, to stay busy. I mean, it's truly just rewarded in our culture today that we praise ourselves for being busy. We have this unspoken expectation that we should be busy all the time and that we should fill our schedules to the max and that we should be going. And there's almost like a shaming if we just say that we took a break, we let ourselves relax. And maybe it's that shaming that we feel within ourselves, that we have this sense of responsibility to always be going, to always continually be productive. And in the process of going through the mundane tasks and going through all the work that we have to do each day, there's also this disconnect that we can feel within ourselves where there's a lack of fulfillment. There's a lack of sense of purpose. And there's this feeling that we want more in our lives, a sense of aliveness that maybe we reminisce about that we felt maybe years ago and we long for, but also question if that's even possible for us. Was that just something that we experienced in our childhood, maybe that we felt alive and we could have fun and be free? And is that something that we can actually cultivate in our lives today? And I know that's how I've felt for so long, and that I constantly had to be producing, constantly had to stay busy, get to the end of the day, and I could look back on all the things that I could check off my list and felt like I should feel good about myself. And I feel good for a second because it was this like drive that I had within myself and that I was doing my duty that I felt like I had to fulfill. But at the end of the day, I was exhausted. And when I actually tapped into my heart and how I was feeling, I felt hollow. That it just nothing was filling my cup anymore. And it became really a struggle that I would feel like I was going through so much of working hard and continually waiting for the day when things would lighten up and it would be this sense of freedom and sense of accomplishment. And I could look back and be like, it was all worth it. But the problem is that the years continued to fade into the next. And then I look back and it was 10 years beyond of doing this over and over and over again. And still, there was just a lack of sense of fulfillment that I experienced. And one thing that I have really anchored into, and there's a lot of things that's helped me feel more fulfilled, but one thing that really has helped me feel more alive is actually connecting with myself and connecting with the past version of myself, the child within me. And really getting to know who that was. I can look back in pictures, but then I'm like, well, what did I actually enjoy? Who was I? What was it that sparked my interest? What was it that made me feel invigorated? And starting to get to know that version of myself again, because so many years can go by, and maybe you experience this in your life that your years just flood into each other. And before you know it, you're 30, you're 40, you're 50, your kids are getting grown. You've gone through several jobs, you've just worked your whole life. And there wasn't a pause where you stopped and reflected and said, am I happy? Do I feel joy? Am I fulfilled in what I'm doing? And it's only when we self-reflect and we can look back and look within ourselves that we can really find those answers. And I think for so many people, especially that listen to this podcast, who tend to get into this pattern of self-abandonment, is that you look outside yourself first. And I know I did that for so many years, and maybe you can resonate with this, that you're looking outside yourself for the next job to make you feel a certain way, or for the next relationship to make you feel a certain way, or for the next hobby to make you feel a certain way. And then you add all those things in, and yet you still feel this like there's got to be more. There's just like something within your heart that feels like it's missing. And it's only when we look within ourselves that I believe we can find that. And something that's really helped me feel a little sense of a spark of aliveness. And when I was going through my journey of really trying to cultivate some of this peace within myself. And again, it's an ongoing journey. There's always something that we're uncovering. There's always something we're healing from. There's always something that we're learning about ourselves. But a big piece to this, and I want to share it with you, was really getting to know that past version of myself. What did I like? What were my hobbies? What were the things that I really enjoyed? And for me, I have had this opportunity to look through so many past things that I've done as a child and really look at the things I wrote and really get to understand myself again and who I was as a child. And a big theme I see in that is that I love to write. I was always writing poetry. I got published when I was 9 years old writing poetry. I always wrote stories and just constantly was writing. And that was something I really enjoyed. And I'm starting to realize this about myself. And it's amazing you forget about this as you go through your life. You're like, you really forget what actually was enjoyable. Because for me as an adult, writing became something I had to do as a student. And I just kind of lost that luster. It lost its meaning in my life. It just became something I had to do to get to the next step. So looking back on this and seeing how much writing meant to me, it's really invigorated a whole new life in me. And I approached it with curiosity of like, what would it be like to write for fun? And so I've actually started to write poems and bring in poetry into my life again. And it has brought this aliveness within myself to continue on with that curiosity of understanding myself and really trying to create that sense of fulfillment and life within myself. And really through that journey of looking back and understanding the past version of myself, it's allowed me to open up new doors. And I want to share this with you because when you look at children. And I have two young boys myself that are 2 and 5 right now. And I see them and they're just full of life and everything is an adventure and they are curious about everything. And they can find fun in the most simple things. And at some point, I feel like we lose that as adults. We lose that curiosity. We lose that spark within ourselves. It's almost like our light gets dimmed by the outside world. And it's not that it's not there. Our light is never out, but there's so many things that can shroud it and the cloud coverage around it by all the things that we have to do, by all the maybe negative messages we get surrounded with, when maybe all the limiting beliefs that we have within ourselves, they start to cloud that light and it becomes dimmer. But I truly believe that it's never gone and you always have this deeper connection with yourself. And if you can start to understand who you were before you got clouded by all the things and all the pressures that life put on you, that's really where the answer to your fulfillment comes from. It comes from discovering who you were. What is it at your core? Children are so full of life and love. And I believe we all are. I think we're just, like I said, clouded by things. And if we can really come back to who we are, the true essence of ourselves, that's really when we can start to embrace life from a different point of view. We can start to understand ourselves from a different point of view. We can look within ourselves for the answers of what do I want in my life, rather than relying on the external world to say what we should feel or how we should feel or maybe what would fill that void. It's only within ourselves that we can understand ourselves. We can only always look within ourselves that those answers come and we can start to really tap into the light within ourselves. And I wanted to share that with you because it was really through that poetry that I started to feel the essence of myself, of like really connecting with who I was as a child and bring that back because I feel like I lost that version of myself for so many years. So many years where I focused on achievement, so many years where I focused on making sure everybody else was okay. So many years where I never stopped and paused to ask myself, am I really happy? Because I thought I was just always on the path of trying to find happiness rather than cultivate and create that inner peace and harmony within myself. So I want to share that with you because if you are feeling like this and you're feeling like you're on this mundane path of doing the same thing over and over and over again, take a moment of pause and just ask yourself, what was I like? What was it that brought me joy as a child? Who was I? And really start to tune into yourself. If you can look back at pictures of yourself and look into the eyes of the younger version of yourself, and what is that little girl or that little boy telling you? What is the message that they have? What were some of the toys that you're playing with? What were some of the things that you did? Come back to yourself because it's truly through the essence of understanding your core self and your beliefs and your light that you had when you're a child that maybe got dimmed by a lot of things in your life. When you can come back to that, that's really when you can start to understand that you can feel more fulfilled in this life. You can feel more at peace and in alignment with who you truly are. I think so often we rely on other people to define us. We rely on our jobs to define us, the amount of money in our bank account to define us. We rely on our friends' opinions or outside opinions to define us. But it's really only the opinion of ourselves that matter. And when we can come back to ourselves and really start to understand and become more familiar with who we are rather than what the world tells us who we are, that is when we can live our truth, live in alignment, and feel at peace and feel more fulfilled in this life. So I wanted to share that message with you, and I hope that it allows you to feel more fulfilled in your life. Thanks for joining me today. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Rewiring Health. I hope you found our conversation both enlightening and empowering. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to Rewiring Health so that you never miss an update. Also, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you could take a moment to rate and review the show, it would mean the world to me and help others discover the power that we all have within us to create change and create the life that we truly, truly desire. Thank you so much for spending your precious time with me and sharing the energy of the show.